Well, at different stages, I think in our life, there are different decisions and different, various things are our goals in life, just at different stages in our life. And I was even thinking, I've said this many times, but when I was little, it was just I wanted to play sports or something. I see that on TV. I want to be some type of a pro athlete or ride my bike. That's right. I rode my bike all the time. It was just my favorite thing. Like I don't know if anybody would know this. Does anybody know the movie Rad from the 80s? There's at least one. I got you there. Anybody? Yes. Nobody. How awesome was that movie, though? Rad. How awesome was Rad? Yeah. It kind of sounds funny. It was a great show. That was my favorite. I watched that all the time. I was like, I want to be like these guys and just ride bikes. I mean, you can make a living doing this. Some people did, I guess. But that was my goals back then, and I always use, like my daughter and other people, like goals. I remember, I've said before, some of her goals when she was really little was she wanted to drive a trash truck. She wanted to be on the back of the truck. She thought that was cool. And she wanted to drive, just drive buses. And I know some of our teachers, I know some of y'all do that. That's what she wanted. I think it was like, I don't want to be in the back anymore. I just want to drive, and be the driver there. Sometimes sometimes we change. Sometimes your idea of what you want to do changes. Sometimes your beliefs about life and different things changes. Sometimes it changes as our life goes on. I was doing a bunch of research with what we're talking about here in this sermon series, and just a lot of people looking at the videos and seeing what is the purpose of life and what is the meaning of life. And a lot of the videos that I looked at, it wasn't Christian-based. Many of the videos there. And so I was wanting to see what people thought. Like, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning? What am I doing here? And there were so many different things on there. Most of them were very just general and just about life. And, it's just about fun. It's about having good times. One guy it was very general. It was just life is about what you make of it. A lot of these things were just really very similar to Solomon here in the book of Ecclesiastes, where we're going to be there. It was just very similar to the approach he was taking about life. Like this one guy, like I said, he just said life is about what you make it, which maybe sounds profound. It's like, oh, that's deep, life is what you make of it. But that's just, to me, those are some of the most frustrating comments I hear, where life is just about what you make it. And if you really think about it, it's like, it's just vague enough that it kind of sounds, that makes sense, but it's not objective enough. It doesn't really have a point to it that you can't really critique it in some way. It's like, what does he actually mean on that? It's like a fortune cookie. Fortune cookies are just like, a statement will be made to you today, and you just read it on there like, it just happened. It's real, like I saw that. What if you didn't read that? Well, I just did though, and you're like, makes sense. But sometimes that's our perception of what life is. It's just what you make of it. It's just, you just have some fun, do some things here. Just really vague kind of general expressions we put out there. And I think that's kind of what he's going through in this book in Ecclesiastes. So this series in Ecclesiastes, it is Solomon. It's the teacher, it's the preacher. He's got this message and he's talking about his life. And most believe that it's Solomon. I think that it probably is. And he's talking about his life. He's looking at things. He's trying to convey this teaching that he's learned as he's gone through life. And here's the name of the series is When Life is Hevel. And if you haven't been with this, that's a Hebrew word, Hevel. And it just means this. I have this on the screen. Hevel is smoke, vapor, temporary, fleeting, or insubstantial. So it's that Hebrew word of what we see in the very beginning of Ecclesiastes. We're going to be in there. It just says everything is meaningless, or your translation may say everything is vanity. Everything is meaningless. Everything is vanity. That word is a Hebrew word, hevel. So everything is just, it's like smoke. It's like vapor. And I've been using this throughout this series of just like this water, because I don't have smoke up here, but it's like, it's that idea of, that's life right there. Just when you think you know it, when you think, okay, I've got a good grasp on what this whole thing is about, what life is about. That's the idea of what he's trying to say there. It's hevel. It's like, I think I got it, and then you try to grasp it, and it's like smoke. It's like chasing this smoke that you're never going to get. And that's the continual picture we keep seeing of him. He's trying these things. And Solomon was so rich. He had all this thing. People brought him literally tons of gold. He was so smart. He already had tons of money, and they're bringing this to him because they want him on their side, but he had all this money, all this access, being the king of Israel. He could do these things, and he tried all this stuff, and this is a lot about what Ecclesiastes is about. He says, I tried everything, and one of the expressions he says is under the sun. everything in this world. I'm going to see what this life here on the earth, what it can bring somebody. I have the access to everything. I can do all this. So what I've said before, you and I, unless you have the amount of money and everything that Solomon had, like we can't fully comprehend this. But he had all this, and we can see, we can read what he did. He tried out all this stuff in life, which is you and I today, we can relate with this because in life, we're trying to find meaning and purpose in so many different things. And he looked at it and just really came to that conclusion that it's just like chasing the wind. I don't know if you've ever chased after the wind, like tried to catch it, and if you've ever caught it, I don't know, you would be the only one. Like it's just, the point of it is you can't. It's just, it's meaningless. It's kind of pointless. You're not going to get there. It's just hevel. It's not going to do it for you. That's what I think he really came to that conclusion. I tried all these things. I'm trying to pursue this, and it's not giving me any meaning or purpose in life. It's not really doing it for me. All these different things. So why is that important really for us today? Well, we've said this throughout this series, is that that's you and I. We're on this earth. We're doing the exact same thing as Solomon is trying. We're trying to find meaning and purpose in life. We come here, maybe sometimes we pretend like we have it all together. None of us fully do. Maybe some of us are at different places in our life. Maybe you're a little closer, but we're still all trying to figure that out. We're all, like I say, we're a mess. We're broken. We're trying to figure this out. This is why this is important, I think, for us to get together and have family and friends. It's tough. This world is going to throw things at us, and this book is really good because it's different from a lot of the other books in the Bible because it's going to come at it from a different way. It's not going to be just like, you do this good thing and something good's going to happen. He's saying, I've seen good people do good things and bad stuff still happens to them. I've seen evil people continue to do evil things and yet good things happen to them. And so he's asking the question sometimes we're thinking about. Why is all this happening? And it's perfect for us now. It's a timely message for us because we're in a time now where we make up these acronyms for these conditions, I guess we have, for all this stuff that's out there. There's this condition now, I'll do that quote to you, this condition that it's the acronym FOMO. And that's not a cuss word, don't worry about it. Like FOMO, it's fear of missing out. That's a condition like that we have. It's a fear of missing out, which, you know, like if your fear of missing out, like friends are doing something, well, I got to go because I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on this. We have social media now where it's just, we don't want to miss out on anything. I don't want to see, I don't want to miss anything. Kyle, you better not go too long because I don't want to miss out on what's happening around the world in these 30 minutes or whatever that we're here, this hour that we're here. I don't want to miss out on what's happening. I don't want to miss out on what's happening in this game. I don't want to miss out. We follow storms, so much. I don't want to miss out on what's happening with Dorian. I don't want to miss out on what's happening in this case. It's like all these things we can do. We have access to this right at our fingertips. And we have this fear of missing out, which again, it's really good to talk about this message here because this is what he's doing. He's like, I'm trying everything. We're going to pursue these things to find meaning and purpose in life. And that's what he's been doing. So we're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 2 today. I'm going to start in verse 17. And we'll see what he talks about now. He says, he just starts off perfect way for the day, right? So I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless and chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun because I must leave them to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether the person will be wise or foolish. Yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil into which I have poured my effort and skill into the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then they must leave all they own to another who has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless and a great misfortune. What do people get for all their toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days their work is grief and pain. Even at night their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too I see is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. And I'll stop there on that right now. So he just starts, so I hated life. Just the perfect way. And when I was studying that, it just made me think about if you ever do any of those jokes, like when someone just walks in and you're like, right as they come in and you're just trying to make them think they missed something. It's like, No, that's not my dog, but green is my favorite color. And everybody just laughs, unlike what you just did right there. Yeah, boo, yeah, great. It's because you caught on at the beginning. If you would have just walked in, you would have laughed. But it's meaningless, Hevel. No, it's meaningless, Kyle. No, but it's kind of like that. You read that, and he's like, so I hated life. If you're coming in, it's like, wait, why is he talking this way? What's he talking about there? And if you remember, just in the previous, what we read last week, is he was just saying, like the fool, the wise too must die. And he comes into this, so I hated life. He talks about his work. It's like, the evil, the good, they have the same outcome in life. They're going to die. What's the point of all this? And that's kind of where he's come from. He's examining this life. He's maybe like where you are, like many of us sometimes in our life, or some people that you're going to talk to in their life, they're wondering, like, what is this all about? They're finally sitting down, and I think sometimes we just need to look at everything, wrestle with all this, and say, like, what is all this stuff really about? And that's really where he is, and he's talking about this, and he's talking about his work and the things that he's pursued, the things that he's done, all his work that he's done in life, and I think he's just trying to examine this, like, what is this really about? Well, I'm going to work for all this stuff. I may accumulate all this stuff and these mountains of things and have all these trophies and houses and goals, and I've reached all those things, but then I'm going to die, and it's just going to go to somebody else. And if you know about Solomon, his son Rehoboam took over the kingdom after him. And if you don't know about that, like, he didn't do a good job. Like, he comes in there and he didn't listen to Solomon's advisors, the guys that had been around there. They kind of counseled him, like, you should do this. You should probably ease up on the people. They've been taxed. They've been worked pretty hard. And he's like, all right, I hear what you're saying. And he goes to his friends, same age as him, and he asks him, what do you guys think? Don't listen to them. And I think they said something like, tell him your pinky is stronger than everything that your dad had, and all this. And he's like, push him even harder. And he does, and people are mad, and the kingdom splits. So this is kind of a picture we can see ahead. Solomon's like, everything you do is going to be left to somebody else, and what if they screw it up? And that's what happened. So it's like, are you okay with that? This is our life. This is all the things that you do, all the things that you work for and achieve and have these things, and are we okay with that? Maybe you come to a point and you do all these things. Maybe you come to a point and you've pursued all these things. You've chased after all this stuff. You're just a real go-getter, okay? And you're working really hard, and you do these things, and you're starting to achieve them, and you're somebody who even, like, can just limit yourself. You can do like the Dave Ramsey meal and like beans and rice, and you don't eat anything else. You're saving up all this money, and you finally get to that point. You finally make a lot. You finally can pay off all these bills. You can do whatever that you want. You can buy these houses, these cars, or you can just pay with cash. You don't have to worry about anything. You do all these things. You don't have to worry about any of it. You can help people out. You can give your kids what you never had or what you think they should have. The $1 million question on that really is, again, what's the point of all that? Why? Is that the goal of just, you can get to this point so that you can have everything, or what you think is everything? Well, what's the point of that? I think that's a little bit of the spirit of what he's asking there. Say you work so hard and you have something that can connect more people than Facebook and Instagram, all these different things. You work something, it's just a billion-dollar company, makes more money than Amazon. You make more money than Bill Gates. You do all these things. You get to that point. This is something you've been shooting for. You worked really hard. You were disciplined like nobody else. You didn't do the things that everybody else was doing. You worked really hard, and you got there. I think the question again is what's the point of all that? Is that what it's all about? And I'll say that up here on the screen. What is it all about? I do believe, I think in reading this, and just being a Christian and just being in life, that is something that every single one of us probably need to wrestle with on this. Like, what is all this about? And I know I'm kind of pressing like the uncomfortable button. I know it's uncomfortable sometimes, but I do believe this is essential for us to really look at here, to wrestle with some of these things and see, what is this all about? What did he do all this for? To you and I here today, what are we doing in life? That is, I want you to, it may not be the most fun question to really think about, but I want you to think about your life, every single one of us, and like, let's really examine that. Even if it's hard, even if it's kind of difficult, it's like, what is all this about? What am I doing in my life? I think we should examine it. I think we should think about it. What are all our accomplishments for? What is all this for? You don't take anything with you. We know that. I don't know if you've heard the story. I mean, it's kind of funny, but that's probably how a lot of us think. That the guy was about to die, and he's telling his wife, he's like, okay, after I die, I want you to take all my money, put it in a briefcase, and put it in the attic, because I want to take it on the way out, And he dies, and his wife was kind of curious, and so she goes in the attic, and she still sees the briefcase up there, and didn't take it with him. And she concluded, I guess I could have put it in the basement, See, like, there it is, yeah. No, but the point is, not the point of this guy was going there, but the point is, we don't take anything with us. There's no point. We know this. Look, you don't have to have died for a few minutes on an operating table. You don't have to have seen a bright light at the end of a tunnel to know this. We know this because we're still here, and we see the things that everybody worked for, the things that the most disciplined, strong, wealthy, just knowledgeable people who have all this stuff, it's still here. It doesn't go back with anybody. But yeah, we sometimes still live in this world like we're going to take it. We still live like, well, I got to have all this stuff, and I got to be able to take it with me. And we're not. And again, I think that's what he's wrestling with. I think he's taking this slow, uncomfortable path through life, looking at this, saying, I've done all these things, but what is really the point of all this? That's what he's saying. It's hevel. I've tried these things. And just when I thought, like I was going to get there, and everybody's like, when I get this amount, I'll be happy. And he's like, I'm past everybody, and it's just seems meaningless. It seems hevel. This doesn't really seem to make any sense. So that's where he is right there. Solomon's tried all these things, and it's hevel. It's meaningless to him. Now it's interesting, as he goes into verses 24 through 26, it seems to steer us towards a life of reckless abandon with fun and good times as our goal. It's like he's saying, you can live this up and you might as well, because life just kind of seems pointless, like you're chasing the wind and nothing really seems to make any sense in your life. And remember, this whole thing is he's doing this outside of this picture with God in it. And he's like, it just doesn't seem to make any sense here. I'm trying these things. I'm chasing the wind. It's just, I'm never reaching the end goal. It doesn't really seem to make any sense. And so it just kind of almost seems strange that he's putting this part in there, just seem to live it up. It almost seems like he doesn't quite know. He's chasing one way, he's clueless about life, and then the other way, he's like, you might as well just live it up. And that's kind of his picture here. And I'll say it like this. I think I've said this throughout this series. We need to learn how to enjoy life and the things of it. And when I say that, it's under God. I said that throughout this series there. This whole book and everything he does in here is him doing this outside of this relationship with God. This whole book is him like, I'm going to put God on the shelf over here, and I'm going to try to pursue happiness and purpose and meaning and all this stuff without God. And that's where he is. David, in one of his Psalms, I'll read this here in Psalm 39. David, in one of these Psalms right here, he gives us this a little perspective about life and how to approach it. And maybe helps us make some sense of Solomon and his life and maybe where we need to be in the right perspective. So Psalm 39, 4 through 7. It says, show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath. Even those who seem secure, surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. And in vain they rush about, heaping up wealth without knowing whose it'll finally be. But now, Lord, what do I look for? And I just want to stop on that last part. My hope is in you. This is his pursuit. This is what he's doing. What's the practical lesson that we should really see in this? Because I want you to take something out of it. I don't want to just depress you and then like end on that and like come back next week. You know, this whole series, it's a lot of difficult things that we need to wrestle with in our life, but I think he's going to come do some really important things here. So the practical lesson on this life, I think is important for us is there's pleasures in this life. Not everything is bad. Some things are good. Some things are bad. Work can be good. Jobs can be good. We need to work. We need to pay for bills. We need to buy stuff. It's okay, like I said, to have some pleasures in life. It's not bad on that. But if we remove the divine stamp from everything, then purpose and meaning in life is completely, I believe, removed. I believe when your purpose and meaning is to chase after created things that are temporary and they're not going to be there forever, and they're as temporary as you and I, like we were made or we were created as you and I, you're going to find no fulfillment. You're going to find no purpose. You're going to find no meaning. You're going to continually be chasing after these things, just like those expresses, chasing after the wind. You're never going to find that true fulfillment and meaning if we remove that divine stamp. If we remove everything from God, if we take it out of life of being under him, we're going to miss all that. Become selfishly driven. So David, he just has some wise things to say, and then just says, God, remind me how short my life is. That's something you and I go to God, ask him, remind you how short our life is, how fleeting it is, that it's not forever, and we need to use this life for the best, which forces us maybe to these uncomfortable questions. Okay, then what is this all about? And I think it pushes us to come to these two places. Is it about God or is it about myself? And then you're going to get into some deep things there. He tells us to look into this. Or like James says right here in James 4:13-17. He says, now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we'll go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. Why, you don't even know what'll happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. It's like the same type of picture that he's talking about in Ecclesiastes. Instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we'll live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it's a sin for them. What James is pointing out, I believe, is the exact same thing that David was writing about in the 39th Psalm. It's just what the teacher, what Solomon is alluding to there, and what he eventually gets to at the end of the book. This is everything I've tried. This is what he's saying throughout the book. I've tried it all, everything you can do with God on the shelf over here and making this life all about me. I've tried these things. I've poured my whole life into these things. Okay, I've done this. I've immersed myself in all these different things that anybody could do under the sun. And there's some fun in them. There's some good. There's some temporary enjoyment in them. But that all elusive fulfillment and joy that everybody's looking for, he's like, it's just not going to be found in just this stuff. It's only found in God. And that's what he's pointing out there. So in summary, looking at all this, what we can say is life is short and then we're done. I don't just want to end it right there. You know, I'll go a little further. But I mean, really, we can just come to that and like say life is short and then we're done. Now, depending on what you believe is going to change what the outcome of that, okay? But this is what he's saying. I think he's just kind of getting into it. His life is short, then you're done. Now, in the stage in between life and being done, he's saying there's some things, there's some stuff that happens along the way. There's some choices you need to make. There's some enjoyable things. There's some pleasures. There's jobs you need to do. Sometimes it's just out of responsibility. Sometimes you can do something and you really like it. There's relationships. There's all these things kind of in between that happen in life. And that's in a relationship with God or not. Everybody knows that. We can all agree with that. You can talk to people who do not believe in God. And it's like we all go through these exact same things in life. We know this. Worldview of God or worldview without God. And this is really what it comes down to is, what are you going to say to this? Is it my will be done? I'll put that up there on the screen. Or the other thing is, your will be done. My will be done. This is where I believe Solomon was. This is where I believe he is. He's going through all this whole book, and he's saying, okay, I'm going to try all these things, saying my will be done, doing all these things about myself. And it was unfulfilling. It was hevel. That's what he was saying. It's like I chased after it. I tried these things, and I found some good things along the way, but it just didn't do it. It just didn't. I always had to go for something else. It's almost that addiction, like addiction to a little bit of fulfillment. I guess whatever it is, you're always going to try something else, and you're never going to get that. But the place we need to be, what changes everything, is your will be done right there. What's it all for? What is our life about? I think when we pour everything into that concept of your will be done, God, it changes everything. It changes what we do. It changes feeling of purpose in life. It changes how we talk to people. It changes just our perspective of life, which changes like just our mood and just everything. I believe when we put everything in God's will. And I'll just finish with this. with me, I've seen this. I know I've seen this in my life because I can sit here and just talk about some concepts or whatever, but I think it's when you see it in people's lives, and maybe you guys can attest to this too, but it's like I've literally seen this. I've seen this in my life where I'm not perfect by any means. I hope I never give that picture to you. I mess up here all the time, so I don't think anybody thinks that. But I know I'm not perfect in any possible way. I'm striving for this, but I'm telling you, I have seen this where the more I say, your will be done, God, rather than my will be done. Because I've done that. That's just natural to us. It just comes natural to say, my will be done. We may say out loud, God, your will be done, but so many times our life is saying, my will be done. But the more I truly get that and I say, like, your will be done, and I follow him, he opens up things. He's done things in my life. He's changed me to where I never thought I would be a certain way. He's done things that I didn't know it was going to be possible. Like, just made me a pastor, done different things, opened up doors. I'm telling you, the more we say, your will be done, rather than my will be done, the more it changes absolutely everything in your life. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know how difficult it is. I can't answer everything there, but the more I see Scripture and I see just what he's saying, I read Solomon, I read Ecclesiastes, and I see his struggle, and I can relate with that, and so many of us can relate with that. But then the more I just read all of Scripture, and the more it makes sense to me, the more I have confidence and passion to say, your will be done. And I'm telling you, I don't know where you are. I don't know if you say that very little or not, but I'm telling you, the more you do finally believe that and trust that and follow God and just say, your will be done, and do what he's saying, it changes. I'm not saying you're going to be rich. I'm not saying you're going to be like Solomon. Everything's going to work out, but it changes your life. It changes how we live. It changes what we live for. It changes those around us. It changes everything. I just want to encourage you guys with that. Wherever you are, whatever you're facing, how difficult it is, don't give up on God. Keep pursuing him. Keep trying to live for him. He's there. You guys, let's bow. We're going to pray now.